Good morning everyone. Basa tayo. Genesis 39 and 40. January 16, 2021. And Matthew 11, buong chapter 11 guys. Mamaya tingnan natin mamaya. Joseph is thrown into jail. Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So he left in Joseph's care everything he had. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. Handsome talaga. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." Ay, yari na. But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servant. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." Ouch. When she kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned me with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, oh, But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in his eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison. And he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. The cupbearer and the baker. Sometime later, nasa 40 na tayo guys. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them. After they had been in custody for some time, Etsumitome, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and his dream had meaning of its own. Napakahalaga ng dream nila nung araw, no? Ako, pag nag-dream ako, nakakalimutan ko agad. Sana tayo, guys. When Joseph came to them, nasa verse 6. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were in custody with him in his master's house, "Why are your faces so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In my dream I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were there 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand." "This is what it means," Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were in his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison, for I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in dungeon." When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I too had a dream. On my head were 3 baskets of bread. In the top of the basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head." "This is what it means," Joseph said. "The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head, hala, and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat away your flesh." Now the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave feast of all his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearers and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Ganun talaga, nakakalimutan na. Okay guys, lipat tayo sa New Testament. Kakatuwa yung story. Matthew tayo. Matthew 11. Buong 11 guys eh. 16 January 2021. Matthew 11 to hanggang saan guys? $30. Hanggang 30. Excuse me. Tama ba? Okay. Jesus teaches about the kingdom. Jesus is John's thought. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there. Ang ano nga niya kahapon guys, nabasa ko race, pwede raw yung mga disciples mag-raise ng dead. Diyan ko. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John heard in prison what Christ was doing, he sent his disciple to ask him, "Are you the one who was to come?" Sino yung nakakulong guys? Si John? Ayan o, when John heard in prison what Christ was doing, he sent his disciple to ask him, Are you the one who was to come? Or should we expect someone else? Jesus replied, Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, and the hear, the dead are raised. Dito talaga ako na-amaze, so the dead are raised. And the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on the account of me. As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. What did you go out into the desert to see? Are it swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. I tell you the truth, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. Lapit na guys, nantok na rin ako. Aray ka. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, yung buhok ko, umaano sa mukha ko, kaya nagkakatigyawat. Mahaba na kasi. Hindi ko mapusod kasi basa pa. The kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. For all the prophets and the law prophesies until John. And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. He has ears, let him hear. Ay, to what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling out to others. We played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang others, and you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, here is glutton and drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom proved right by her actions. Jesus promises rest for the soul. Then Jesus began to denounce the cities in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! If the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted up to the skies? No, you will go down to the deeps. If the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. At that time, Jesus said, matatapos na tayo. Sa verse 25, guys. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden those things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this was your good pleasure. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Gagawin natin tong naririnig ko to parati sa kanta. Come to me, and I will give. Diba? Come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Ano pala yun, guys? Matthew 11:28. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Ang galing niya. Hanggang 30 lang siya, guys. Okay, good night na. Tulugan na, guys. Bye.